So today we're going to dive into the mind of a composer who didn't just write new music, he basically rewrote the entire rulebook. We're using Arnold Schoenberg's theory of harmony as our guide, and trust me, this is less of a textbook and way more of a revolution on paper. Let's get into how he challenged, well, everything.
In this quote right here is really the key to understanding the guy. Schoenberg believed that any real discovery, any real art, only happens when you step way outside your comfort zone. For him, the search was everything, and he was about to kick off a search that would shape the very foundations of Western music.
So what is this book, Theory of Harmony? First off, forget your dusty old textbooks. Schoenberg packed this thing with wild speculation, deep philosophy, and these fiery arguments, he called them polemics, aimed right at the musical establishment of his time. It really wasn't manifesto. To make his point, Schoenberg comes up with this brilliant analogy. He compares the typical music theorist to a carpenter. A carpenter, he says, understands their craft because they do it. Their knowledge, their theory, comes from hands-on practice. But the music theorist, he argues they often have zero practical skill. They just create rules based on what other people have done, a theory completely cut off from the actual act of creation.
And that leads us right into the first huge myth Schoenberg wanted to bust. This idea that the rules of music are like the laws of physics. Eternal, unchanging, and scientifically proven. He saw a massive, fundamental error in thinking that way.
So how did these so-called laws even get made? Well, Schoenberg breaks it down. Theorists look at music from the past. They classify what they see and hear, and then they derive a set of rules from those observations. Now, the first 3 steps, totally fine. But number 4, he says, that's the big mistake. They wrongly conclude that a description of what was done must become a prescription for what must be done forever. And man, you can just feel his frustration in this quote. He's looking at a history of art that's constantly evolving, where composers are always breaking old rules to find new kinds of beauty, while the theorists are just clinging to their outdated systems, totally unable to see that reality has already moved on.
Schoenberg pointed to the alchemists. Their whole system was technically wrong, right? But they correctly sensed a deeper truth, that elements could be changed. Meanwhile, 19th century chemists, with their more correct scientific system, were dead certain the elements were unchangeable, and they were the ones who were wrong. So the point is, a system of rules isn't the only way to get to the truth. Sometimes it's actually a roadblock.
So this whole critique of flawed systems, it leads him straight to his next target, a myth that's at the very heart of music itself. The difference between what we think sounds beautiful and what sounds, jarring. He's talking about dissonance.
The standard thinking is pretty simple, right? Consonance, that's the good stuff. Pleasing, natural harmony. Dissonance, that's just clashing, unnatural noise. It's a mistake, something you're supposed to avoid or fix right away. Schoenberg thought this was completely and totally wrong.
And here's his radical redefinition. He argued that dissonance isn't the opposite of consonance, it's just a more remote consonance. Think about it. They're not enemies, they're family. One is a close relative, the other is a distant cousin, but they both come from the exact same source.
And he didn't just pull this out of thin air, he backed it up with physics. See, a single musical note isn't just one sound. It's a complex blend that also creates a whole series of quieter, higher notes called overtones. And right there, inside that natural overtone series, you find the building blocks for all harmony, from the simplest, most pleasing sounds to the most complex, jarring ones. So for Schoenberg, dissonance isn't unnatural at all. It's been hiding inside every single note this whole time.
Okay, so if the whole system of theory is flawed and dissonance is actually natural, what about those super specific practical rules that music students are told to never, ever break? Let's look at one of the most famous forbidden moves in all of music.
Let's talk about the infamous rule against parallel fifths. Basically, it's when 2 different musical parts move together and stay the exact same interval apart. For centuries, students have been told, don't do this. Why? The reason is always the same, because they just sound bad. It's treated like an objective fact. But Schoenberg, being Schoenberg, asks, is that really true?
So Schoenberg just takes a hammer to the logic behind this rule. He points out, hey, parallel octaves are totally allowed. People use them all the time because they sound strong and powerful. Okay, what about parallel thirds and sixths? Also totally fine, even though they also make the musical voices less independent. So why, he asks, are parallel fifths forbidden, especially when the interval of a fifth is acoustically a purer, stronger sound than a third? The reasoning just completely falls apart.
So what's the real reason for the rule?
Schoenberg concludes it has absolutely nothing to do with how things sound. It's all about historical fashion. See, centuries ago, music was full of parallel fifths and octaves. Then a new style came along that liked thirds and sixths more, and the old style got rejected, not because it was bad, but just because it was outmoded. That rule is just a ghost of an old stylistic beef, not some eternal law of sound.
So Schoenberg has torn down the authority of aesthetic laws, he's flipped our understanding of dissonance, and he's exposed the flimsy logic behind specific rules. The big question is, what's left? If you don't follow the rules, what's supposed to guide the artist?
And this is so important. He's not about to just hand us a new rule book. He wasn't trying to replace one prison with a newer, different one. His whole goal was to point us toward a much deeper source of creative truth.
And this is the new authority, instinct. For Schoenberg, the real creative act comes from a place way beyond conscious thought and reason. It's a feeling, a deep compulsion, something that feels like it's being dictated to you from somewhere inside.
He takes it even deeper. The artist, he says, becomes an instrument, almost like a channel for this incredibly powerful unconscious will. They don't know if what they're making is good or bad, or new or old. They only know one thing, that they have to make it.
But, and this is the amazing part, this instinct isn't just random chaos. Schoenberg was absolutely convinced that it had its own inexorable but unconscious logic, a logic that was far more profound, more necessary, and more truthful than any system of rules that could ever be written down.
So, after this whole journey through Schoenberg's revolutionary ideas, we're left with this final thought. His argument, really, it goes way beyond music theory. It's a challenge to anyone who creates, or thinks, or even just lives. It asks us all to take a hard look at the laws we follow without question, and to wonder, what deeper, more honest instincts might they be holding back?